You illiterate piece of garbage! The wine bottle exploded against Marcus Williams' chest. $3,000 of Chateau Margaux shattered into 1,000 pieces, soaking through his white server shirt like a gunshot wound. Victoria Sterling stood over him, trembling with rage. This is what happens when restaurants hire people who can't even read. 50 wealthy diners watched in silence. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Marcus looked down at the wine dripping from his hands, the same hands that had held 437 human hearts. The same hands that had saved congressmen, children, and kings. He slowly removed his apron. "Mrs. Sterling," he said quietly, "you've called me illiterate 3 times tonight." He smiled. "Allow me to respond in 5 languages. Comment your city below so I can see how far this story travels." 632. That's how many times Marcus Williams had tied this apron. He counted everything now. Steps to the dining floor, seconds before the first complaint. Days since he'd held a scalpel. 1,096 days. His phone buzzed. "Dad, parent-teacher conference Thursday. Please don't be late again. Love you." Maya, his 17-year-old daughter. His entire universe compressed into one human being. He typed back, "I'll be there. Promise." He always promised. He always meant it. And lately, he always broke it. "Williams, table 7 tonight." Carlos, the floor manager, didn't look up from his clipboard. "7's the Sterling party," Marcus said. 12 guests. High maintenance. I've got the Morrison anniversary at... She requested you specifically. Marcus went cold. She doesn't know me. She asked for the tall black server. That's you. Carlos finally met his eyes. Don't mess this up. Her company just bought the building next door. Sterling Pharmaceuticals. The name hit Marcus like a fist to the chest. 3 years ago, he was Dr. Marcus Williams, Chief of Cardiothoracic Surgery at Columbia Presbyterian. He'd published 37 papers, trained in Germany, lectured in Beijing, operated on diplomats, senators, a former vice president. Then Victoria Sterling's company sold faulty surgical equipment to his hospital. A patient died. Sterling's lawyers needed a scapegoat. They chose Marcus. The trial lasted 11 months. The medical board revoked his license. His savings evaporated into legal fees. His wife had already left. Couldn't handle the stress, she said. Took their house, their car, their dignity. Only Maya stayed. "Dad, we'll figure it out," she'd said, holding his hand in that empty apartment. "You're still you." But he wasn't. Not anymore. Now Dr. Marcus Williams carried plates for people who couldn't pronounce cardiovascular. "Marcus?" Destiny, the youngest server, was watching him with worried eyes. "You okay? You've been staring at that napkin for 3 minutes." "I'm fine." "Liar. My grandmother makes that face when she's lying, and she's 74. "Your grandmother sounds smart." "She survived Jim Crow in Mississippi. She can smell trouble from a mile away." Destiny lowered her voice. "Table 7 is trouble. Sterling made a busboy cry last month, 19 years old, sobbing in the supply closet." "What did he do wrong?" "Breathed too loud while pouring water." Marcus straightened his collar. The uniform was too tight, tailored for a smaller man. Everything about this life was tailored for a smaller man. "I've handled worse." "Have you?" He thought about Mrs. Patterson, who flatlined twice before her new heart finally took. He thought about the 17-hour surgery on a 4-year-old with a defect so rare it had no name. He thought about 3 a.m. phone calls to widows, explaining that everything possible wasn't enough. "Yeah," Marcus said. "I have." Victoria Sterling's hands never stopped moving, tapping the table, adjusting her jewelry, picking invisible lint from her blazer. Marcus recognized those hands. He'd seen them on patients too terrified to admit fear. She sat at the head of the table like a queen holding court. 12 guests surrounded her. Investors, board members, a nervous assistant clutching a tablet. Marcus approached silently. Invisibility was the job requirement nobody mentioned. "Good evening. Welcome to Aurora. My name is..." "Water." Victoria didn't look up from her phone. "Of course. Sparkling or..." "San Pellegrino. Chilled glass. Not the water, the glass. Spherical ice, not cubed. I hate the sound of cubes. It's low class." "Certainly, ma'am." "And this napkin." She flicked it with disgust. "There's a crease on the left side. Is sloppiness the restaurant's policy, or just yours?" The napkin was perfect. Marcus had folded it himself. "I apologize. I'll replace it immediately." He reached for the napkin. Victoria's hand shot out and grabbed his wrist. Hard. "Did I say you could reach across my plate?" Every conversation stopped. 12 pairs of eyes locked onto them. Her nails dug into his skin like small knives. "When I give instructions, I expect acknowledgement. 'Yes, Mrs. Sterling' will suffice. Understand?" Marcus looked at her hand on his wrist. He felt the familiar wall rising. The same wall that protected him during the trial, when journalists camped outside his apartment, and former colleagues crossed streets to avoid him. "Yes, Mrs. Sterling." She released him. The nail marks would stay for hours. "Better. Now get my water." She turned to her guests, smirking. "And send someone who actually knows about wine. I doubt this one knows anything beyond whatever they sell at corner stores in his neighborhood." Laughter rippled around the table. Nervous, performative, Marcus bowed slightly and retreated. "What happened to your wrist?" Destiny grabbed his hand before he could hide it. 4 red crescents marked his dark skin. "She grabbed you? Marcus, that's assault." "No. We need to tell Carlos." "Destiny." His voice dropped. "I need this job. Maya's tuition is due in 2 weeks. Rent in 5 days. If I report this, what happens? They investigate. Maybe they believe me. Maybe not. Either way, I'm the troublemaker, the liability, the angry black man who couldn't handle a difficult customer. That's not fair." "Fair?" Marcus laughed bitterly. 3 years ago, I was chief of cardiothoracic surgery. I published papers in German medical journals. I lectured at Beijing Medical University. In Mandarin. I operated on a senator's daughter while the Secret Service watched. Destiny's mouth fell open. "Now I get called boy by people who can't spell surgery. And you want to talk about fair?" He stopped. He'd said too much. "You were a doctor?" "Forget it. Marcus, I need to get her water. Spherical ice. Chilled glass." He grabbed the tray, then paused. "Destiny, please don't tell anyone." "I won't." She touched his arm gently. "But Marcus, whatever happened, wherever you came from, that woman can't take that away. My grandmother says you can take someone's job, but you can't take their soul." Marcus headed toward the floor. "Your grandmother's wrong," he said over his shoulder. "You absolutely can. It just takes time." The dinner service became a war of attrition. The bread was too warm. The butter was too cold. The ambient music was offensive. The server, Marcus, was too present, then too absent. She sent back the first wine, then the second. Marguerite, the sommelier, cornered Marcus in the hallway. "She says this burgundy tastes like dishwater. This is a 2005 Domaine de la Romanée Conti. It costs more than my car. It does not taste like dishwater." She's testing us. For what? Weakness. Marcus had seen it before. In operating rooms, boardrooms, courtrooms. She wants to see who breaks. Then she can test someone else. I refuse. I'll handle it. Marcus took the wine list. He returned to table 7. Victoria was mid-performance. So I told the board, if they can't handle restructuring, find easier jobs. We cut 3,000 positions last quarter. The union called me heartless. She laughed. I said, I'm not heartless. I'm efficient. Natural selection applies to corporations. The smart survive. The literate survive. Her eyes found Marcus as she emphasized the word. He pretended not to notice. You, server. What's your name again? Marcus, ma'am. Marcus. She tasted the name like something rotten. Do you know anything about wine? Anything at all? Or did you memorize a few words to impress tourists? I'm familiar with our list, ma'am. Familiar, she snorted. I want the 1982 Chateau Margaux. Do you know what that is? Can you even pronounce it? Snickers around the table. Something cold settled in Marcus's chest. Not rage, something older. Surgical. Chateau Margaux, he said. His French was flawless, perfected during his fellowship at Hôpital Européen Georges Pompidou in Paris. Premier Grand Cru Classé, 1982. An exceptional vintage. Notes of blackcurrant, violet, and cedar. Silky tannins. Remarkable finish. We have one bottle remaining. $3,400. Victoria's smile flickered. Well, someone's been studying. How impressive. Like a parrot learning to talk. I'll retrieve the bottle, Mrs. Sterling. And Marcus? He paused. If you breathe wrong on that cork, I'm taking it from your salary. What do you make? Minimum wage? You probably can't afford to replace this bottle in a year. The wine cellar was quiet. Marcus found the Margaux and cradled it carefully. His phone buzzed again. Maya. Dad, I got an A on my calculus exam. Are you proud of me? He typed back, Prouder than you'll ever know, baby girl. That's my genius. 3 dots appeared, then, I love you, Dad. Even when you miss stuff, I know you're working hard for us. I see you. Marcus closed his eyes. I see you. 3 words. The only 3 words that mattered anymore. He carried the wine upstairs. The ritual of wine service had always appealed to Marcus. Precise, methodical, like surgery. Cut the foil cleanly. Wipe the lip. Insert the corkscrew at the proper angle. Pull slowly. Let physics do the work. He performed each step perfectly. The cork emerged without a sound. He poured a small taste into Victoria's glass. She swirled aggressively, splashing wine onto the tablecloth, sniffed with exaggerated disdain, sipped, then smiled. It wasn't a pleasant smile. It's corked. I'm sorry? Are you deaf? It's corked. Tastes like wet cardboard, completely ruined. Mrs. Sterling, I inspected the cork myself. It's perfect. The wine has been stored at optimal. Are you correcting me? The restaurant froze. Forks stopped midair. Conversations died. Victoria stood. She was shorter than expected, 5'4" in heels, but carried herself like a giant. Let me explain something, Marcus. She spat his name. I've been drinking wines that cost more than your annual salary since before you were born. I have a sommelier certification. I have a palate. She picked up the wine glass. You are a server. You carry plates. You wipe tables. You say yes, ma'am, and no, ma'am. You do not tell Victoria Sterling, CEO of a $2 billion company, that I don't know what corked wine tastes like. I apologize if I... You apologize? Of course you do. You people always apologize. You know your place. You know you're not smart enough to argue. You're probably illiterate. Couldn't form a coherent sentence if your pathetic life depended on it. The word echoed. Illiterate. Marcus heard it bouncing off memories. Medical school lectures in German. Research papers he'd published in French journals. Conferences in Beijing where he'd presented in Mandarin. That summer in Sao Paulo, learning Portuguese to comfort a dying Brazilian diplomat in his mother tongue. Illiterate. Victoria grabbed the bottle of Margot. You want to know what I think of your optimal storage? She threw it. The bottle shattered against his chest. Wine exploded across his white shirt like a wound. Cold liquid soaked through to his skin, dripped down his arms, pooled at his feet. Gasps echoed through the restaurant. Someone's phone was recording. Victoria smiled triumphantly. Clean up this mess. Go back to the kitchen where you belong. And send me a real sommelier. Someone who can actually read. She turned to her guests, arms spread wide. This is what happens when restaurants hire for diversity instead of... Mrs. Sterling. Marcus's voice cut through the air like a scalpel. It wasn't the voice of a server anymore. It was the voice of a man who had told families their loved ones were gone. The voice of a surgeon who had commanded operating rooms. The voice of someone with absolutely nothing left to lose. Victoria turned slowly. Her smile faltered. Marcus removed his apron, folded it precisely, the way he used to fold surgical drapes, and placed it on an empty chair. Wine still dripped from his chest. He didn't wipe it. You've called me illiterate 3 times tonight. You destroyed my career 3 years ago, Mrs. Sterling. Victoria's face went white. Sterling Pharmaceuticals sold defective surgical equipment to Columbia Presbyterian. A patient died on my table. Your lawyers needed someone to blame. Marcus took a step forward. You picked me. I don't know what You called me acceptable collateral damage in a board meeting. Your former assistant, the one you fired for being pregnant, she testified at my appeal. She remembered everything. Victoria's hands started shaking. I lost my medical license, my savings, my marriage. I lost everything. Marcus's voice was calm, terrifyingly calm. But I kept one thing, Mrs. Sterling. What? My education, he smiled. Since you're so concerned about my literacy, perhaps we should continue this conversation in a language more appropriate for your status. Victoria opened her mouth. No words came out. English seems too common for you. Marcus Williams took a breath, and the entire restaurant held theirs. Marcus began in French. Not the textbook French of high school classrooms. Not the tourist French of phrase books. This was the fluid, aristocratic French of the Sorbonne, of diplomatic receptions, of a man who had spent 18 months at Hôpital Européen Georges Pompidou, learning to save lives in the language of Molière. Madame Sterling, vous confondez la richesse avec la valeur. Votre argent peut acheter le silence des faibles, mais jamais le respect des forts.
Vous insultez ceux qui vous servent, parce que, au fond de votre âme vide, vous savez que vous n'êtes rien sans votre compte en banque.
Victoria's face contorted with confusion and rage. What did you just say to me? Marcus didn't answer. He shifted languages like a surgeon switching instruments. German now, sharp, percussive, each word landing like a hammer blow. Sie glauben, Ihre Position gibt Ihnen das Recht, andere zu erniedrigen. Aber ich habe in München studiert. Ich habe deutsche Ärzte ausgebildet. Ich habe in ihrer Sprache Leben gerettet, während Sie in Vorstandszimmern saßen und darüber entschieden, welche Familien Sie als nächstes zerstören würden. A woman at table 3 gasped audibly. She was German. Marcus could tell by her reaction. Her hand flew to her mouth. Oh mein Gott, she whispered to her husband. He just said he trained German doctors. His accent is perfect, better than mine. Victoria's head snapped toward the woman.
What? What is he saying?
He's saying, the German woman hesitated, he's saying you destroy families for profit, and that he saved lives while you counted money. Victoria's face turned crimson. This is insane. Security. Where is security? But nobody moved. The entire restaurant was transfixed. Marcus turned to Victoria's assistant, a young Latina woman who had been silent all evening, absorbing abuse with the practiced patience of someone who needed the paycheck. He spoke to her in Spanish, not the Spanish of textbooks, but the warm, melodic Spanish of his years volunteering at free clinics in Washington Heights, treating patients who couldn't afford the hospitals that employed him. Señorita, escúcheme bien. Este trabajo no vale su dignidad. Ningún salario vale las lágrimas que usted esconde. Yo perdí todo, mi carrera, mi esposa, mi orgullo. Pero nunca perdí mi alma. No deje que ella le robe la suya. The assistant's eyes filled with tears.
What are you telling her? Victoria screamed.
Stop speaking to my staff. This is harassment. I'll sue you. I'll sue this entire restaurant. He told me the truth, the assistant said quietly. Her voice was shaking, but she met Victoria's eyes for the first time all evening. He told me no paycheck is worth my tears. And he's right. She stood up. Jennifer, sit down. My name is Lucia. You've called me Jennifer for 2 years because you couldn't be bothered to learn my actual name. Lucia removed her earpiece and placed it on the table. I quit. You can't quit. You have a contract. Sue me. Lucia picked up her purse. Good luck finding another assistant willing to work 90 hours a week while you call her the Mexican girl behind her back. She walked toward the door, pausing next to Marcus. Gracias, she whispered. Por todo. De nada, hermana. Ve con Dios. Lucia left. The door closed behind her with a soft click that somehow echoed like thunder. Victoria was shaking now. Her carefully constructed world was cracking, and she didn't know how to stop it. This is ridiculous, she hissed at her investors. He's clearly mentally ill. Someone call the police. But her investors weren't looking at her anymore. They were looking at Marcus. Specifically, the Chinese investor at the end of the table, a man named Wei Chen, who controlled a sovereign wealth fund worth $400 billion, was staring at Marcus with an expression of intense curiosity. Marcus met his eyes and spoke in Mandarin. Chen Chen Chen, 我在北京协和医院学习了2年。我的导师是王伟民教授，您可能认识他。他教我，真正的财富不在于你拥有多少，而在于你给予多少。这位女士拥有数十亿美元，但她的灵魂是空的。您真的想和这样的人做生意吗？ Wei Chen's eyes widened. 你的中文非常好, he said slowly. Your Chinese is excellent. You studied at Peking Union? 2 years, under Professor Wang Weimin. Wang Weimin. Wei Chen nodded slowly. I know him. He spoke of an American surgeon who saved his grandson's life, a man who refused payment and asked only that the family donate to charity instead. That was a long time ago. It was 7 years ago. The boy is now studying medicine himself. Because of you. Wei Chen stood up. He was not a tall man, but he carried himself with the quiet authority of someone who had never needed to raise his voice to be heard. Mrs. Sterling, I believe we are finished here. Wei, please, this is just a misunderstanding. This man is clearly... This man saved my mentor's grandson. This man speaks my language better than most diplomats I've met. This man, Wei Chen's voice hardened, is clearly not what you claimed he was. He turned to Marcus. I apologize, he said in Mandarin, for sitting at this table, for not speaking sooner, for being complicit in her cruelty through my silence. You couldn't have known. I should have spoken when she first raised her voice. In my country, we have a saying, 沉默是对恶的默许. Silence is consent to evil. He bowed slightly, a gesture of profound respect. I will not be silent again. Wei Chen walked toward the door. At the threshold, he paused. Mrs. Sterling, I will be recommending to my board that we divest all holdings in Sterling Pharmaceuticals, effective immediately. The color drained from Victoria's face. Wei, please. That's a $400 million position. You can't. I just did. He left. Victoria stood frozen, watching $400 million walk out the door because she couldn't control her cruelty for one evening. But Marcus wasn't finished. One more language, Mrs. Sterling. Stop, please. Just stop. You called me illiterate. You said I couldn't read. You said I couldn't form a coherent sentence. Marcus stepped closer. Victoria stumbled backward, nearly falling over her chair. Let me show you what illiteracy really looks like. He spoke in Latin, the language of medicine, the language of law, the language of the civilization Victoria claimed to represent. Primum non nocere. First, do no harm. That was the oath I took when I became a physician, an oath your company made me break when your faulty equipment killed my patient. I don't understand Latin. Veritas lux in tenebris lucet. Truth is a light shining in darkness. And tonight, Mrs. Sterling, the light has found you. Please, sic transit gloria mundi. Thus passes the glory of the world. Marcus's voice dropped to barely a whisper. Your glory is passing, Victoria. Right now, in front of everyone. And there's nothing your money can do to stop it. He stepped back. My name is Dr. Marcus Williams. I graduated magna cum laude from Harvard Medical School. I completed my fellowship in cardiothoracic surgery at Johns Hopkins. I spent 2 years at Hôpital Européen Georges Pompidou in Paris, 2 years at Beijing Union Medical College, 1 year at Ludwig Maximilian University in Munich. I have published 37 peer-reviewed papers in 5 languages. I have performed 437 successful heart surgeries. I have held human hearts in my hands and made them beat again. The restaurant was utterly silent. 3 years ago, your company destroyed me. You took my license, my reputation, my marriage. You took everything I had worked for since I was a 17-year-old kid from Harlem with nothing but a dream and a library card. His voice cracked slightly. But you couldn't take my mind. You couldn't take my languages. You couldn't take the knowledge I spent 30 years accumulating. And you definitely couldn't take my daughter. He pulled out his phone and showed her the screen. Maya's text glowed in the dim light. I love you, Dad. Even when you miss stuff, I know you're working hard for us. I see you. This is why I carry plates instead of scalpels now. This is why I say yes, ma'am, to people like you. This is why I count the days. 1,096 since I last saved a life. Because my daughter needs me, and I will endure any humiliation, swallow any pride, survive any insult, to make sure she has the future you tried to steal from me. Marcus placed his phone back in his pocket. You called me illiterate, Mrs. Sterling, but I just educated you in 5 languages. I wonder, how many languages do you speak? Victoria opened her mouth. Nothing came out. That's what I thought. He turned and addressed the room. Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for the disruption to your evening. Please enjoy the rest of your meals. The wine, I assure you, is not corked. And then Marcus Williams, former chief of cardiothoracic surgery, former published researcher, former everything, walked toward the kitchen door. He made it 3 steps before the applause started. It began with the German woman at table 3. She stood and clapped, tears streaming down her face. Her husband joined her. Then table 5. Then table 8. Then the tech CEO at table 2, who had been filming the entire confrontation on his phone. One by one, the wealthy elite of Manhattan rose to their feet. Not for Victoria Sterling, for the waiter who had just schooled her in 5 languages. Victoria stood alone in a sea of standing ovation, surrounded by her remaining investors who were suddenly very interested in their phones, their shoes, anything but her. "Sit down," she hissed. "Everyone sit down." Nobody sat. "This is ridiculous. He's a waiter." "A waiter!" "He's a doctor," someone called out. "Didn't you hear him?" "He was a doctor. He lost his license. He's a fraud." "He lost his license because of your company," the tech CEO shouted back. He was still filming. "Lady, this video already has 10,000 views, and I uploaded it 90 seconds ago. You're done." Victoria grabbed her purse with shaking hands. "I'm leaving, and I'm never coming back to this pathetic establishment." "Ma'am?" A server appeared at her elbow. It was Destiny. "You haven't paid your bill." "I'm not paying for this disaster." "Ma'am, your bill is $14,642. That includes the Margot you threw at our colleague." "I'll have my lawyers. Your lawyers can contact our lawyers." Carlos, the floor manager, had finally appeared. His face was pale, but his voice was steady. "But until then, we'll be happy to hold your credit card on file. Or I can call the police and report you for theft of services, assault, and destruction of property." Victoria's jaw dropped. "You wouldn't dare!" "Watch me." For a long moment, nobody moved. Then, Victoria reached into her purse, pulled out a black American Express card, and threw it at Carlos's face. "Take it. Take all of it. I don't care." She stormed toward the door, shoving past waitstaff and diners alike. At the threshold, she turned one last time. "You think you've won, Marcus? You think this little performance changes anything? I will destroy you. I'll sue you for defamation. I'll make sure you never work anywhere in this city again. Mrs. Sterling?" Marcus's voice was calm, almost gentle. "You already destroyed me. 3 years ago. You took everything I had." He smiled, a sad, tired smile. "There's nothing left to take. And that makes me the most dangerous person you'll ever meet. Because a man with nothing to lose has nothing to fear." Victoria's face contorted with rage and something else, something that looked almost like fear. She left without another word. The door slammed behind her. And for a moment, the only sound was the soft jazz playing over the restaurant speakers, and the quiet weeping of strangers who had just witnessed something they would never forget. Then Destiny rushed to Marcus's side. "Oh my God. Oh my God. Marcus, that was... I can't even... I need to sit down." The adrenaline was fading. His legs were shaking. The wine on his shirt was starting to dry, stiff and cold against his skin. Carlos appeared with a chair. "Sit, please." Marcus collapsed into it. "I'm fired, aren't I?" Carlos laughed, a strange, almost hysterical sound. "Fired? Marcus, you just performed the one-man show that made a billionaire cry and leave without her credit card. Every person in this restaurant is going to tip 200% tonight, just because they got to witness it. You're not fired. You're a goddamn legend." "I don't want to be a legend. I just want..." His phone buzzed. Maya again. "Dad? Someone sent me a video. Why are you covered in wine? Why is everyone clapping? Dad, what is happening?" Marcus stared at the screen. The video had already spread beyond the restaurant, beyond the tech CEO's followers, beyond anything Marcus could have imagined. He watched himself on the tiny screen, speaking French to a woman who had destroyed his life. Watched himself switch to German, then Spanish, then Mandarin, then Latin. Watched the billionaire shrink smaller and smaller with every word. His phone buzzed again. A text from a number he didn't recognize. Dr. Williams, this is James Morrison from CNN. We'd like to interview you about the video that's currently going viral. Please call us at your earliest convenience. Another buzz. Mr. Williams, this is the New York Times. We're running a story on the Sterling pharmaceutical scandal and would love your comment. Another. Dr. Williams, I'm a producer at Good Morning America. Can we talk? Another. Marcus, this is Wei Chen. I have a proposition for you. Please call me. Another. And another. And another. Marcus turned off his phone. He looked at Destiny, who was staring at him like he'd grown a second head. Is there a back door? What? A back door. A way out that doesn't involve walking past all these people. Marcus, they want to congratulate you. They want to... I know what they want. But right now, I need to see my daughter. I need to explain to her why her father just became the main character of the internet. And I need to do it before she hears the whole story from strangers. Destiny nodded slowly. Through the kitchen, past the walk-in freezer. There's a door that leads to the alley. Thank you. Marcus stood. His legs were still unsteady, but they held. Destiny? Yeah? Your grandmother was right about not being able to take someone's soul. He paused at the kitchen door. But you were wrong about one thing. What? You said Sterling made a busboy cry because he breathed too loud. Marcus shook his head. She didn't make him cry because of his breathing. She made him cry because she knew she could. Because people like her feed on the tears of people they think can't fight back. So what changed tonight? Marcus smiled. She picked the wrong person to feed on. He pushed through the kitchen door. The walk to the back exit felt longer than it should have. Cooks and dishwashers stared at him as he passed. Word had already spread through the staff. Someone started a slow clap. Someone else joined in. Dr. Williams! The head chef, a massive Frenchman named Pierre, blocked his path. I must shake your hand. I have worked in this industry for 30 years, and I have never seen anything like what you just did. Thank you, Pierre. No, thank you. That woman sent back my bouillabaisse 3 times last month. Said it tasted like fish water. Fish water. It is supposed to taste like fish. It is made of fish. Despite everything, Marcus laughed. She doesn't deserve your bouillabaisse, Pierre. She doesn't deserve to eat. But you... Pierre grabbed his hand and pumped it vigorously. You are welcome in my kitchen anytime. Anytime. I will make you the best meal of your life. Free of charge. Forever. That's very kind. It is not kindness. It is respect. Now go. Your daughter needs you. Family first. Always family first. Marcus made it to the alley door. The night air hit him like a wall of cold water. The rain had stopped, but the streets were still wet, reflecting the neon lights of Manhattan in streaks of color. He leaned against the brick wall and breathed, in through the nose, out through the mouth. The same breathing technique he used to teach patients before surgery. You're going to feel scared, he would tell them. That's normal. But fear is just a signal. It's your body telling you that something important is about to happen. Don't fight it. Breathe through it. Let it pass through you like water through a net. He breathed. He let the fear pass. And then his phone, which he'd forgotten to turn off, buzzed one more time. A voicemail notification from a number he didn't recognize. He played it. Dr. Williams? This is Dr. Patricia Okonkwo, Chair of the Medical Licensing Board of New York. I've just seen a rather extraordinary video involving you and a representative of Sterling Pharmaceuticals. I think we need to talk. Please call me at your earliest convenience. I believe there may have been a miscarriage of justice in your case, and I'd very much like to correct it." Marcus stared at his phone. The screen blurred. He realized he was crying. Not the quiet, controlled tears of a man who had trained himself to show no weakness. These were the heaving, ugly sobs of someone who had held himself together for 3 years, and finally allowed himself to break. He slid down the wall until he was sitting on the wet pavement of the alley, designer shoes and all. And he wept. He wept for the career he'd lost. He wept for the wife who'd left. He wept for the father who'd never gotten to see him at his lowest. He wept for Maya, who had believed in him even when he couldn't believe in himself. He wept for the 437 hearts he'd healed, and the one heart, his own, that he'd thought would never heal again. And somewhere in the middle of all that weeping, his phone buzzed one more time. Maya. "Dad, I watched the whole video. All of it. I'm so proud of you I can't stop crying. I'm coming to get you. Don't move. I love you. I love you so much. We're going to be okay now. I can feel it. We're going to be okay." Marcus held the phone against his chest, and for the first time in 1,096 days, he believed it. Maya's car pulled into the alley 17 minutes later. Marcus knew the exact time because he'd been counting. Old habits. He counted the seconds between his heartbeats. He counted the raindrops falling from the fire escape above. He counted the breaths he took to stop himself from falling apart completely. The headlights cut through the darkness. A battered Honda Civic, 12 years old, held together by duct tape and prayer, screeched to a stop. Maya jumped out before the engine died. She was still wearing her school hoodie. Her hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail. Her eyes were red and swollen. "Dad!" She ran to him. Marcus tried to stand, but his legs wouldn't cooperate. 3 years of holding everything together, and now his body had decided it was done pretending. Maya dropped to her knees beside him on the wet pavement. She didn't care about her jeans. She didn't care about the puddles. She just wrapped her arms around him and held on like she was afraid he'd disappear. "I saw everything," she whispered into his shoulder. "Every single word. Dad, you were incredible." "I was stupid." "You were brave." "I lost my job, Maya. The only job I could get. The only thing keeping us—" "Stop!" She pulled back and grabbed his face with both hands, forcing him to look at her. "Stop it. You stood up for yourself. For the first time in 3 years, you fought back. Do you know how long I've been waiting for that?" "What?" "Dad, I watch you every day. I watch you swallow your pride. I watch you come home with your shoulders hunched and your eyes dead. I watch you pretend everything's fine when I know it's killing you. I was protecting you. You were protecting me from what? From knowing the truth? Dad, I've known the truth since I was 14. I read the court transcripts. I researched Sterling Pharmaceuticals. I know what they did to you. I know all of it." Marcus stared at her. "You never said anything." "Because you never said anything. I was waiting for you to trust me, to tell me yourself." Tears streamed down her face. "But you just kept carrying it alone, like you had to be some kind of superhero. Like I couldn't handle knowing my dad got screwed over by evil people." "You were just a kid. I was 14, not 4. I understood. And you know what hurt more than knowing the truth? Watching you pretend it wasn't happening. Watching you shrink yourself into someone I didn't recognize." Maya wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. Tonight, in that video, that was my dad. The one who taught me to stand up to bullies in kindergarten. The one who said, "Baby girl, never let anyone make you feel small." That's the man who raised me. And I've missed him so much. Marcus couldn't speak. His throat was too tight. "Come on." Maya stood and offered her hand. "Let's go home. We've got a lot to talk about." He took her hand. She pulled him to his feet. "Your shirt is ruined," she said, looking at the wine stains. $3,000 wine. Was it good? I never got to taste it. Maya laughed. A wet, broken sound that was half sob and half joy. "That's the most dad thing you've ever said." They drove home in silence. Not the heavy silence of secrets and shame. A different silence. The kind that comes after a storm breaks. The apartment was small, 2 bedrooms, in a building where the elevator worked about half the time, and the neighbors' arguments came through the walls like they were in the same room. Marcus had grown up in places like this. He'd thought he'd never come back. 3 years ago, he'd lived in a brownstone in Brooklyn Heights. 4 bedrooms, a garden, a view of the Manhattan skyline that made guests gasp. Now he had a window that overlooked a parking lot and a kitchen sink that leaked. "Sit down," Maya ordered. "I'll make tea." "I should shower. This wine is starting to smell." "Tea first, shower later. We're talking." Marcus sat at the tiny kitchen table, the same table where he'd taught Maya algebra, the same table where he'd held her hand and explained that Mommy wasn't coming back, not because she didn't love Maya, but because sometimes adults break in ways that can't be fixed. The same table where he'd cried alone at 3 a.m., counting the days until his life would make sense again. Maya set 2 cups of tea on the table and sat across from him. "Your phone has been buzzing non-stop." I turned it off. "Dad, you have like 40 missed calls. I saw notifications popping up on your lock screen. CNN? The New York Times? Good Morning America?" "I know." "This is huge. This is—" She struggled for words. "This could change everything. Or it could make everything worse." "How? How could it be worse? You've been serving appetizers to people who don't know how to say please. You've been getting yelled at by trust fund babies who've never worked a day in their lives. You've been invisible, Dad, for 3 years. Being invisible kept us safe." "Being invisible was killing you," Maya's voice cracked. "I see you come home at midnight with your feet bleeding because your work shoes are falling apart. I see you skip meals so I can have seconds. I hear you crying in the bathroom when you think I'm asleep." Marcus looked away. "You heard that? The walls are thin, Dad. I didn't want you to worry. I'm 17. Worrying about my parents is literally my job." She reached across the table and grabbed his hand. "But tonight, you showed the whole world who you really are. And they loved you. Don't you see? People are on your side. For once, finally, people are on your side." His phone buzzed again. He'd forgotten to turn it off completely. Maya glanced at the screen. "It's a voicemail from someone named Dr. Patricia Okonkwo, Medical Licensing Board." Marcus's heart stopped. "Play it." "Dad." "Maya, play it, please." She hit the speaker button. Dr. Okonkwo's voice filled the small kitchen. "Dr. Williams, this is Dr. Patricia Okonkwo, Chair of the Medical Licensing Board of New York. I've just seen a rather extraordinary video involving you and a representative of Sterling Pharmaceuticals. I think we need to talk. Please call me at your earliest convenience. I believe there may have been a miscarriage of justice in your case, and I'd very much like to correct it." The message ended. Maya stared at him. "Dad, did she just say what I think she said?" "I don't know." "She said miscarriage of justice. She said she wants to correct it." I heard. Dad, Maya jumped up, nearly knocking over her tea. This could mean you could get your license back. You could be a doctor again. Maya, slow down. One voicemail doesn't mean. It means hope. For the first time in 3 years, it means hope. Call her back. It's midnight. So? She called you at midnight. She obviously thinks this is urgent. Marcus looked at the phone in his hand. 3 years of silence from the medical board. 3 years of appeals denied, letters ignored, requests for reconsideration stamped rejected in red ink. And now, because of one video, because of one moment when he refused to be invisible. I'm scared, Maya. The words came out before he could stop them. Maya sat back down, her face softened. Scared of what? What if it's nothing? What if she just wants to clarify something? What if I get my hopes up and they crush me again? Then we deal with it, together, like we've dealt with everything else. I've tried to protect you from all of this. I know, and I love you for it. But Dad, she squeezed his hand, I don't need protection. I need my father, the real one, the one who fights back, the one who speaks 5 languages and saves lives and doesn't take crap from billionaires. Marcus looked at his daughter, his baby girl, the tiny human he'd held in his arms 17 years ago, promising to give her the world. The world had broken that promise. But maybe it wasn't too late to try again. He picked up the phone. He dialed. It rang twice. Dr. Williams? Patricia Okonkwo's voice was warm but urgent. Thank you for calling back. I apologize for the late hour, but I felt this couldn't wait. I appreciate you reaching out, Dr. Okonkwo. I have to admit, I'm confused. The board hasn't responded to any of my communications in over 2 years. I know, and I owe you an apology for that. She paused. Dr. Williams, I've spent the last 3 hours reviewing your case file. All of it. The original complaint, the investigation report, the hearing transcripts, everything. And I'm disturbed by what I found. Deeply disturbed. Marcus gripped the phone tighter. Maya was watching him with wide eyes. What do you mean? The evidence against you was provided almost exclusively by Sterling Pharmaceuticals. Their internal testing reports, their quality assurance documentation, their expert witnesses, all of it came from Sterling or Sterling-affiliated sources. I know. My lawyer tried to argue that at the hearing, but the board accepted their documentation at face value. I know. I've read the transcript. Dr. Okonkwo's voice hardened. What I didn't know, what none of us knew, was that Sterling Pharmaceuticals has been under federal investigation for the past 18 months. Marcus felt the room tilt. Federal investigation? The FBI and FDA have been building a case against them. Falsified safety data, bribery of hospital administrators, systematic cover-ups of equipment failures. She paused. Dr. Williams, the surgical equipment that failed during your procedure, it wasn't an isolated incident. There have been 47 documented cases across 12 states. 17 patients died, and in every single case, Sterling's legal team found a scapegoat, a surgeon, a nurse, a hospital administrator, to take the blame. Marcus couldn't breathe. 17 patients? That we know of. The actual number may be higher. Why didn't anyone tell me? Why didn't anyone? Because Sterling's lawyers are very, very good at what they do. They buried everything. Sealed settlements, non-disclosure agreements. They made sure no one case could connect to another. So what changed? A whistleblower, a former Sterling quality control manager named David Chen. He's been cooperating with federal investigators for the past year. 2 weeks ago, he provided documentation proving that Sterling knew about the equipment defects before your surgery. They knew, Dr. Williams, and they sold the equipment anyway. Maya was crying silently across the table. Marcus reached out and took her hand. "What does this mean for me, doctor?"
Okonkwo?
"It means I'm calling an emergency session of the Medical Licensing Board tomorrow morning. In light of this new evidence, I'm recommending that your case be reopened and your license suspension be reviewed." Reviewed, not reinstated. "I can't promise reinstatement, Dr. Williams. There's a process. But I can promise you this. You will finally get a fair hearing. The hearing you should have gotten 3 years ago." Her voice softened. "I watched that video tonight. All of it. You stood in front of a woman who helped destroy your career, and you responded not with violence, not with hatred, but with the very thing they tried to take from you: your knowledge, your dignity, your humanity. That took extraordinary courage. It took desperation, Dr. Okonkwo. There's a difference." "Perhaps. But desperation reveals character. Yours was revealed to be exceptional." She paused. "Get some rest tonight, Dr. Williams. Tomorrow is going to be a very long day. My office will send you the hearing details first thing in the morning." "Dr. Okonkwo?" "Yes?" "Why are you doing this? Why now?" The line was quiet for a moment. "Because I became a doctor to heal people, Dr. Williams, and I became chair of this board to protect doctors who heal people. For 3 years, I failed you. I failed everyone Sterling Pharmaceuticals scapegoated, and I'm tired of failing." She hung up. Marcus set the phone down slowly. Maya was staring at him. "Well, there's going to be a hearing tomorrow. They're reopening my case." Maya launched herself across the table and threw her arms around him. "I knew it! I knew something would change! I knew if you just—" Maya, listen to me." He pulled back and held her shoulders. "This isn't guaranteed." She said reviewed, not reinstated. "There's still a chance. There's a chance you could be a doctor again. A chance, Dad. 24 hours ago you had nothing. Now you have a chance. That's everything. That's everything." His phone buzzed again. Then again. Then again. He looked at the screen. Notifications were flooding in faster than he could read them. Twitter mentions, Instagram tags, news alerts. One headline caught his eye. "Breaking. Sterling Pharmaceuticals stock crashes 40% in after-hours trading following viral video." He opened the article. The video of Marcus confronting Victoria Sterling had now been viewed over 15 million times. Major news outlets were picking up the story. Former Sterling employees were coming forward with their own accounts of corporate malfeasance. The SEC had announced an investigation into potential securities fraud. And buried at the bottom of the article, almost as an afterthought, Victoria Sterling could not be reached for comment. Sources close to the Sterling family indicate that the CEO has retained criminal defense counsel. Marcus read the sentence 3 times. Criminal defense counsel. 3 years ago, Victoria Sterling had destroyed his life without a second thought. He was acceptable collateral damage, a name on a spreadsheet, a problem to be solved and forgotten. Now she was hiring lawyers to keep herself out of prison. "Dad, you okay?" He looked at Maya. "I don't know how I feel." "What do you mean?" "I spent 3 years hating her, fantasizing about this moment, about her losing everything the way I lost everything." He shook his head slowly. "And now that it's happening, I just feel empty. I thought revenge would taste sweet, but it doesn't taste like anything." Maya sat down next to him. "Maybe that's because it's not revenge." "What is it then?" "Justice." She put her head on his shoulder. "Revenge is when you want someone to suffer. Justice is when you want the truth to come out. You didn't destroy her tonight, Dad. You just told the truth. She destroyed herself. She's been destroying herself for years. You just turned on the lights. Marcus put his arm around his daughter. When did you get so wise? I learned from the best. They sat like that for a long time, father and daughter, in a tiny apartment with leaky pipes and thin walls. Outside, the city hummed with the noise of a million stories unfolding. But in that kitchen, at that moment, only one story mattered. And it was far from over. Marcus's phone buzzed one more time, a text from a number he didn't recognize. Dr. Williams, this is Wei Chen. I hope you'll forgive the late contact. I have been thinking about our encounter this evening, and I have a proposition I'd like to discuss with you. My foundation funds a network of free cardiac care clinics across underserved communities in America. We have been searching for a medical director, someone with exceptional surgical skills, multilingual abilities, and a genuine passion for serving those who cannot afford traditional health care. After tonight, I believe I have found that person. Please call me at your convenience. I believe we can do great things together. Marcus read the message, then read it again. Dad? What is it? He showed her the screen. Maya's eyes went wide. Is this real? I don't know. Dad, this could be, I know, a free clinic, helping people who can't afford care. That's exactly what you used to talk about, before everything. Remember? You used to say that when you retired, you wanted to open a clinic in Harlem, a place where people like Grandpa could get the care they deserved. Marcus remembered. He remembered the dreams he'd had before they were beaten out of him. He remembered the person he used to be before Victoria Sterling decided he was expendable. And for the first time in 3 years, he wondered if maybe, just maybe, that person wasn't gone, just hiding, waiting for the right moment to come back. It's late, Marcus said finally. We should get some sleep. Tomorrow is going to be a long day. You're not going to answer him? Tomorrow. I'll answer everyone tomorrow. Right now, I just need... He stopped. What? I need to believe this is real. I need one night to just believe it, before reality comes crashing back in. Maya hugged him. It's real, Dad. I promise. This is all real. She went to her room. Marcus stayed at the kitchen table. He looked at his hands, the hands that had held hearts, the hands that had carried plates, the hands that were still stained with $3,000 wine. He thought about the 437 patients he'd saved. He thought about the one he'd lost. He thought about the 17 others who died because Sterling Pharmaceuticals cared more about profit than human life. And he made a decision. Not a decision about Wei Chen's offer, or the medical board hearing, or the CNN interview requests. A smaller decision, a more important one. He was done being invisible. He was done counting the days since his last surgery, like a prisoner marking time on a cell wall. He was done letting fear make him small. Tomorrow, whatever happened, whether the board reinstated him or rejected him, whether Wei Chen's offer was real or a fantasy, whether Victoria Sterling faced justice or escaped it, Marcus Williams was going to walk into that room with his head held high. Not because he'd won, because he'd finally remembered who he was. A healer, a father, a man who spoke 5 languages and had held human hearts in his hands. A man who had been knocked down, but never, not once, knocked out. Marcus Williams turned off the kitchen light and went to bed. For the first time in 1,096 days, he didn't count the seconds until sleep came. The Medical Licensing Board of New York occupied the 14th floor of a gray government building in downtown Manhattan. Marcus had been here before, 3 years ago, when they'd taken everything from him. That day, he'd worn his best suit. He'd prepared a 60-page defense. He'd brought character witnesses, medical records, peer-reviewed research proving the equipment failure wasn't his fault. None of it had mattered. Sterling's lawyers had been better, more expensive, more ruthless. They'd painted him as negligent, arrogant, a diversity hire who'd been promoted beyond his competence. He'd walked out of that hearing room with nothing. Today, he walked back in with even less. His only suit was wrinkled. He'd slept in it by accident, too exhausted to change. His eyes were bloodshot from a night of broken sleep. His hands trembled slightly as he pushed through the glass doors. But Maya was beside him. She'd insisted on coming, skipped school, didn't care about the consequences. "You're not doing this alone," she'd said. "Never again." The lobby was crowded. Marcus had expected a quiet administrative proceeding. Instead, he found chaos. Reporters, camera crews, photographers jostling for position. "Dr. Williams, over here!" "Dr. Williams, any comment on the Sterling investigation?" "Dr. Williams, how do you feel about Victoria Sterling's arrest this morning?" Marcus stopped cold. "Arrest?" A reporter shoved a microphone in his face. "You haven't heard? FBI agents took her into custody at 6 a.m. 15 counts of fraud, obstruction of justice, and conspiracy to commit manslaughter. It's all over the news." Maya grabbed his arm. "Dad! Dad! Did you hear that? They arrested her." He heard it, but he couldn't process it. Victoria Sterling. The woman who'd thrown wine in his face. The woman who'd called him illiterate. The woman who'd destroyed his career with a phone call and never lost a minute of sleep over it. In handcuffs. "Dr. Williams, your reaction?" Marcus looked at the reporter. Young guy, hungry eyes. Recorder thrust forward like a weapon. "I don't have one." "You must feel vindicated." "I feel tired. I feel like I want to get upstairs and find out if I'm still a doctor. That's all I feel right now." He pushed through the crowd. Maya stayed close, shielding him from the worst of the cameras. They made it to the elevator. The doors closed. Silence. "You okay?" Maya asked. "I don't know." "She's going to prison, Dad. The woman who ruined your life is going to prison." "Maybe." "Maybe? They arrested her. 15 counts." "Rich people get arrested all the time, Maya. They don't always stay arrested. They hire better lawyers. They make deals. They walk away with community service and a fine that's less than what they spend on wine in a year." The elevator dinged. 14th floor. "Today isn't about her," Marcus said. "Today is about me. About whether I can still be who I was. Everything else is noise." The hearing room was smaller than he remembered. A long table at the front, 7 chairs behind it, currently occupied by 5 doctors and 2 administrators, all staring at him as he entered. Dr. Patricia Okonkwo sat in the center chair. She was a small woman, Nigerian-American, with gray-streaked hair and eyes that missed nothing. "Dr. Williams, thank you for coming." "Thank you for the opportunity, Dr. Okonkwo." "Please, sit." She gestured to a single chair facing the panel. "Your daughter is welcome to stay, but she'll need to remain silent during the proceedings." Maya squeezed his hand and retreated to the back of the room. Marcus sat. His heart was pounding. His palms were sweating. But his voice, when he spoke, was steady. "I'm ready." Dr. Okonkwo nodded. "Dr. Williams, this emergency session has been called to review your license suspension in light of new evidence that has come to our attention. Before we begin, I want to acknowledge that the board failed you 3 years ago. We accepted evidence at face value that should have been scrutinized more carefully. We allowed outside interests to influence a process that should have been impartial. For that, I apologize." Marcus said nothing. An apology didn't give him back 3 years of his life. But it was a start. We've now reviewed the documentation provided by the federal whistleblower, David Chen, Dr. Okonkwo continued. This documentation proves conclusively that Sterling Pharmaceuticals knew about defects in their cardiovascular surgical equipment and failed to issue recalls or warnings. The equipment failure during your surgery was not the result of physician error. It was the result of corporate negligence and deliberate concealment. I've been saying that for 3 years. I know, and I'm sorry we didn't listen. Dr. Okonkwo shuffled her papers. However, reinstatement of your medical license is not automatic. There are procedures, evaluations. We need to verify that your skills have not degraded during your time away from practice. I understand. Do you? She leaned forward. Dr. Williams, you haven't performed surgery in over 3 years. The field has advanced. Techniques have evolved. We can't simply hand you a scalpel and hope for the best. I'm not asking you to. What are you asking for? Marcus took a breath.
I'm asking for a chance. A supervised return to practice. Proctored surgeries. Skills assessments. Whatever you need to verify that I'm still capable. He met her eyes. I spent 3 years carrying plates, Dr. Okonkwo. But I never stopped being a surgeon. I read every journal. I watched every video. I attended every free lecture I could find. I practiced suturing on chicken breasts in my apartment at 2 a.m. because I couldn't afford simulation equipment. A murmur ran through the panel. You continued your education? I continued my life. Surgery isn't what I do, it's who I am. You can take away my license, my job, my reputation, but you can't take away 30 years of training. You can't take away the muscle memory in my hands. You can't take away the knowledge in my head. Dr. Okonkwo studied him for a long moment. We've received several letters of support on your behalf. Would you like to hear them? Letters? Quite a few, actually. Starting with one from Dr. Wei Chen of the Beijing Union Medical College, who writes, and I quote, Dr. Williams is among the finest surgeons I have ever had the privilege of training. His technical skills are matched only by his compassion for patients. The medical community's loss has been immeasurable, and I urge the board to correct this injustice immediately. Marcus felt his throat tighten. We've also received letters from Dr. Hans Müller of Ludwig Maximilian University in Munich. Dr. Claire Dubois of Hôpital Georges Pompidou in Paris. Dr. Maria Santos of Hospital das Clínicas in São Paulo. All attesting to your exceptional abilities and ethical character. I trained with all of them years ago. They remember you, Dr. Williams. They remember the surgeon you were, and they believe you can be that surgeon again. Dr. Okonkwo paused. We've also received something unusual. A petition. A petition. Signed by 347 of your former patients. People whose lives you saved. They started it last night, after the video went viral. They're asking us to give you back your license. Marcus couldn't speak. 347 people. Faces flashed through his memory. Mrs. Patterson, who'd coded twice on his table. The 4-year-old with the unnamed defect. The senator's daughter. The Brazilian diplomat. Hundreds of others. They remembered him. After everything, they still remembered. Dr. Williams, are you all right? He wiped his eyes quickly. I'm fine. I didn't know anyone still cared. People don't forget the person who saved their lives, Dr. Okonkwo said gently. That's something no corporate lawyer can take away. She turned to the panel. I've heard enough. Are there any objections to proceeding with a provisional reinstatement, contingent upon successful completion of a skills assessment and proctored surgical rotation?
The panel members exchanged glances. One by one, they shook their heads. No objections. Then let the record show that by unanimous decision, the Medical Licensing Board of New York is provisionally reinstating the license of Dr. Marcus Williams, effective immediately. Marcus heard the words, but they didn't feel real.
Dr. Williams, did you hear me?
I heard you. You're a doctor again, provisionally, but legally. You can begin your proctored rotation as soon as we identify an appropriate facility. I may have a suggestion on that. A voice from the back of the room. Everyone turned. Wei Chen stood in the doorway. He was wearing a simple gray suit, no tie, no ostentation. His presence filled the room nonetheless. Mr. Chen, Dr. Okonkwo said with surprise. We weren't expecting you. I apologize for the intrusion, but I flew overnight from San Francisco when I heard about this hearing. I wanted to be here. He walked forward and stood beside Marcus. Dr. Williams, I meant what I said in my message last night. My foundation is prepared to fund your return to practice. We'll cover the costs of your skills assessment, your proctored rotation, your malpractice insurance, everything. Mr. Chen, that's incredibly generous, but there's a condition. Marcus tensed. There was always a condition. When you're fully reinstated, and you will be fully reinstated, I have no doubt, I want you to consider becoming the medical director of our free clinic network. 12 facilities across the country, underserved communities, patients who have been forgotten by the healthcare system. That's not a condition, that's a dream. Then dream with me, Dr. Williams. Wei Chen smiled. 3 years ago, you saved my mentor's grandson. You refused payment. You asked only that the family donate to charity. I've never forgotten that. Neither has Professor Wang. We've been looking for a way to repay you ever since. You don't owe me anything. Perhaps not. But the patients in those communities, they need someone like you. Someone who sees them as human beings, not billing codes. Someone who speaks their languages, literally and figuratively. Wei Chen's voice dropped. Someone who knows what it feels like to be invisible. Marcus looked at Maya. She was crying silently, her hand pressed over her mouth. He looked at Dr. Okonkwo. She was smiling, the first genuine smile he'd seen from her. He looked at his hands, the hands that had held hearts, the hands that had carried plates, the hands that were about to hold hearts again. I don't know what to say. Say yes, Wei Chen replied. Say yes, and let's change some lives together. Marcus stood. He shook Wei Chen's hand. Yes. The word felt strange in his mouth. Foreign. He'd said, yes, ma'am, and yes, sir, so many times over the past 3 years that he'd forgotten what it felt like to say yes to something he actually wanted. Yes, he said again, just to feel it. Wei Chen pulled him into an unexpected hug. Welcome back, Doctor. The hearing ended. Marcus walked out of the building in a daze. Maya was beside him, practically bouncing with excitement. Dad! Dad! You're a doctor again! You're going to run clinics! This is insane! I know. Are you happy? You don't look happy. You look like you're in shock. I think I am in shock. They pushed through the lobby doors. The reporters had multiplied. Word of Victoria's arrest had drawn even more cameras. Dr. Williams, how do you feel about getting your license back? Dr. Williams, any comment on Victoria Sterling's arrest? Dr. Williams, what's next for you? Marcus stopped. He looked at the cameras, the microphones, the hungry faces waiting for a soundbite they could turn into a headline. 3 years ago, these same reporters had called him a disgrace, a negligent doctor, a cautionary tale. Now they wanted his victory speech. I'll take one question, Marcus said. The crowd fell silent. Ask. A young woman pushed forward. She looked different from the others, less polished, more earnest. Her press badge read, Harlem Gazette. Dr. Williams, I'm from your old neighborhood. My grandmother lived on 127th Street her whole life. She died last year, heart failure. She couldn't afford the specialists she needed. The woman's voice wavered. My question is, what do you want to say to people like her? People the system forgot. Marcus felt something shift inside him. This wasn't about Victoria Sterling anymore. This wasn't about revenge or vindication or proving anyone wrong. This was about the grandmother on 127th Street and all the other grandmothers, all the other families, all the other people who died because they couldn't afford to live. I want to say, I'm sorry, Marcus said. I'm sorry I wasn't there. I'm sorry the system failed your grandmother the way it fails millions of people every day. And I want to promise you something. What? I'm coming home. Not to a fancy hospital with marble floors and valet parking. I'm coming home to Harlem, to the Bronx, to Queens, to every neighborhood where people work 2 jobs and still can't afford a doctor. His voice grew stronger. I spent 3 years being invisible. I know what it feels like to be overlooked, to be dismissed, to be told you don't matter because you can't pay. He looked directly into the camera. I matter. You matter. Your grandmother mattered. And I'm going to spend the rest of my career making sure no one forgets that. The young reporter was crying. So were several others. Marcus turned and walked away. Maya caught up with him. Dad, that was... I meant every word. I know. That's what made it powerful. They walked in silence for a block. Then Maya's phone buzzed. She looked at the screen and stopped dead in her tracks. Oh my God! What? The video of you just now. Someone already uploaded it. It has... She refreshed the page. Dad, it has 2 million views. It's been 3 minutes. I don't care about views, Maya. No, you don't understand. People are sharing it with hashtags. Hashtag Doctor Comes Home. Hashtag Healthcare for All. Hashtag Marcus Williams. She showed him the screen. Comments were flooding in faster than the app could load them. My mother died because she couldn't afford insulin. Thank you, Dr. Williams. I've been a nurse for 30 years. This is why I do what I do. God bless you, sir. I'm a med student. I almost dropped out because the debt felt impossible. This video made me remember why I started. Thank you. Marcus stared at the screen. I don't know how to handle this. You don't have to handle it, Dad. You just have to keep being you. The world will handle the rest. His phone rang. Unknown number. Normally, he would have ignored it, but something made him answer. Dr. Williams? This is Robert Castellano, Chief of Surgery at Mount Sinai, Harlem. Dr. Castellano, I know your reputation, and I know yours, now more than ever. I just watched your statement outside the licensing board. I have to say, it moved me. I've been in medicine for 40 years, and I've rarely heard anyone articulate why we do this work so clearly. Thank you, sir. I'm calling because I understand you need a facility for your proctored rotation. I'd like to offer Mount Sinai, Harlem. Marcus's breath caught. That's very generous, but I should tell you, Wei Chen's foundation is funding my reinstatement. They have their own clinic network. I know. I spoke with Mr. Chen this morning. He suggested we talk. Castellano paused. Dr. Williams, our hospital serves some of the most underserved communities in New York. We're chronically understaffed. We lose young doctors to private practice because they can't handle the workload or the heartbreak. We need someone who understands what it means to serve patients who've been forgotten. I understand. I believe you do, which is why I'm not just offering you a proctored rotation. I'm offering you a position, attending surgeon with a path to department head if you're interested. The pay is less than you'd make in private practice, but the work, I'll take it. You don't even know the salary yet. I don't care about the salary, Dr. Castellano. I care about the work. I've spent 3 years carrying plates for people who have more money than humanity. I'm done chasing paychecks. I want to matter again. The line was quiet for a moment.
When can you start? How soon do you need me?
Castellano laughed, a warm, surprised sound. Dr. Williams, I needed you yesterday, but I'll settle for Monday. Come in at 7 a.m. We'll start your orientation. I'll be there at 6. I believe you will. Welcome to Mount Sinai, Harlem, Doctor. I have a feeling you're going to fit right in. Marcus hung up. Maya was staring at him with her mouth open. Did you just get 2 job offers in 1 hour? I think I did.
Dad, this is like a movie. This doesn't happen in real life.
Apparently it does. Apparently, when you stand up for yourself, and the universe decides to apologize all at once. Maya threw her arms around him. I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you. Marcus held his daughter. He thought about everything that had led to this moment. The wine on his shirt. The word illiterate ringing in his ears. The decision to remove his apron and speak. If Victoria Sterling hadn't pushed him past his breaking point, none of this would have happened. He would still be invisible, still counting days, still dying slowly in a life that didn't fit. She had meant to destroy him. Instead, she had set him free. Dad? Yeah? What are you thinking about? Marcus smiled. I'm thinking about how strange life is. How the worst things can become the best things if you survive long enough to see the other side.
Is this the other side? He looked at his daughter, his phone buzzing with opportunities. The city stretching out before him, full of patients who needed him. Yeah, baby girl, I think it finally is. They walked toward the subway. Marcus's phone buzzed one more time. A text from Destiny, his former coworker at Aurora. Just saw the news. You're a doctor? This whole time you were a doctor and you never said anything? I'm literally screaming. You're my hero. Go save some lives, Dr. Williams. You deserve this more than anyone I've ever met. He typed back. Thank you, Destiny, for everything. Tell Pierre I'll take him up on that free meal someday. She responded instantly. He says name the date and he'll close the restaurant just for you. Also, he says Victoria Sterling is banned for life. They put her picture behind the bar with a big red X through it. It's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. Marcus laughed out loud. What? Maya asked. Justice, he said. It comes in the strangest forms. They descended into the subway station. The platform was crowded with the usual mix of New Yorkers, businessmen, students, tourists, everyone rushing somewhere important. Nobody recognized Marcus. Nobody knew that 24 hours ago he'd been invisible. Nobody knew that his life had just changed forever. And that was fine. He didn't need recognition. He didn't need fame. He just needed to heal. That's all he'd ever needed. The train arrived. Marcus and Maya stepped on. The doors closed, and Dr. Marcus Williams rode the subway home, counting not the days since his last surgery, but the days until his next one. 1 year later, Marcus Williams stood in the scrub room of Mount Sinai, Harlem, watching water run over his hands. The ritual was the same as it had been 1,000 times before. Soap, water, brush, repeat. 30 seconds per hand, 60 seconds total. Every finger, every nail, every crevice. But today felt different. Today was surgery number 112 since his reinstatement. Today was also the day Victoria Sterling would learn her fate.
His phone buzzed on the counter. A text from Maya. Verdict's in. Guilty on all 15 counts. She's going away for a long time. How do you feel? Marcus stared at the message. How did he feel? He thought about it as he finished scrubbing. A year ago, he would have felt triumph, vindication, the savage satisfaction of watching his enemy fall. Now he just felt tired. Not the exhausted tired of 3 years carrying plates, a different tired. The tired of a man who had moved on and didn't want to look back. He typed his response. I feel like I have a surgery in 10 minutes, and a patient who needs me more than I need revenge. Talk tonight. Love you. Maya's response was immediate. That's the most dad answer ever. Love you too. Go save a life. Marcus dried his hands and pushed through the doors into operating room 3. The team was already assembled. 2 residents, an anesthesiologist, 3 nurses. All of them looked up when he entered. Good morning, everyone. What do we have? Dr. Sarah Chen, no relation to Wei Chen, just a coincidence that had made Marcus smile when they first met, stepped forward with the chart. 47-year-old male, severe aortic stenosis. He's been on the transplant list for 8 months, but we finally found a donor match yesterday. Family? Wife and 3 kids in the waiting room. The oldest is 12. She hasn't stopped crying since they brought him in. Marcus nodded slowly. What's his name? James. James Washington. Let's go save Mr. Washington's life. He approached the operating table. The patient was already under, his chest prepped and draped. Just another body on a table. Just another heart waiting to be fixed. Except there was no such thing as just another anything. Not anymore. Every patient was someone's father, someone's husband, someone's reason to keep going. Marcus had learned that lesson the hard way. Scalpel. The nurse placed it in his hand. The weight was familiar. Perfect. Like shaking hands with an old friend after years apart. Beginning the incision. His hands moved with the precision of 30 years of training. Muscle memory took over. The cutting, the spreading, the careful navigation through layers of tissue to reach the heart beneath. Vitals? Stable. Blood pressure 110/70. Heart rate 68. Good. Let's get the bypass ready. The surgery progressed. 3 hours in, they had the old heart out. A sad, damaged thing that had been slowly killing James Washington for years. New heart is ready, doctor. Marcus looked at the cooler being wheeled in. Inside was a heart from a 19-year-old who had died in a car accident in New Jersey. A tragedy for one family. A miracle for another. That was the brutal mathematics of transplant surgery. Someone had to die for someone else to live. Marcus had made peace with that math a long time ago. Let's give Mr. Washington his second chance. He lifted the donor heart carefully, cradling it the way he'd once cradled Maya when she was a newborn. This never gets old, Sarah said quietly. Watching you work. Watching anyone hold a human heart should never get old. The day it becomes routine is the day you need to find a new career. He positioned the heart in the empty cavity, beginning anastomosis. Suture by suture, he connected the new heart to James Washington's body, the aorta, the pulmonary artery, the veins. Each connection precise, each stitch perfect. Removing the clamp in 3, 2, 1. The blood began to flow. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the heart quivered. Then it beat. One contraction. Then another. Then another. Strong, steady, alive. We have sinus rhythm, the anesthesiologist announced. Heart rate 72 and climbing. Blood pressure normalizing. Marcus stepped back from the table. He watched the heartbeat inside James Washington's chest. A 19-year-old's heart, now keeping a 47-year-old father alive. Beautiful, Sarah whispered. It always is. Marcus stripped off his gloves. Dr. Chen, you can close. I need to talk to the family. You always deliver the news yourself. Always. They deserve to hear it from the person who held their loved one's heart. He walked out of the OR. The hallway was quiet. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead. The smell of antiseptic hung in the air. He found the waiting room at the end of the corridor. A woman in her 40s sat in a plastic chair, clutching a rosary. 3 children surrounded her. 2 boys, maybe 8 and 10, and a girl of 12 who looked like she hadn't slept in days. The woman saw Marcus first. Her face went white. Doctor, is he? Mrs. Washington, your husband is out of surgery. The transplant was successful. His new heart is beating strong. For a moment, she didn't react. Then she collapsed into sobs. The children rushed to her, crying themselves, everyone hugging everyone, a tangle of arms and tears and relief. Marcus stood quietly, giving them space. The 12-year-old broke away from her family and walked toward him. Her eyes were red, but her jaw was set with determination. You saved my daddy. The donor saved your daddy. I just helped with the delivery. Mama says you're the doctor from the video, the one who talked in all those languages. Marcus smiled slightly. That was a long time ago. She says you used to be a waiter, and then you became a doctor again because you're brave. I became a doctor again because I had a daughter who believed in me, even when I didn't believe in myself. The girl processed this. Can I be a doctor when I grow up? You can be anything you want, but if you choose medicine, remember one thing. What? Marcus knelt down to her eye level. Every patient is someone's daddy, someone's mama, someone's reason to wake up in the morning. Never forget that. The moment you start seeing patients as numbers instead of people, that's when you need to stop. The girl nodded solemnly. I won't forget. I promise. Good. He stood up. Now go hug your mama. She needs you. The girl ran back to her family. Marcus watched them for a moment. The tears, the laughter, the relief of a crisis survived. This was why he'd fought so hard to come back. Not for revenge. Not for vindication. Not for proving Victoria Sterling wrong. For this. For the Washington family, holding each other in a hospital waiting room. Their world put back together by hands that used to carry plates. His phone buzzed again. Wei Chen. Congratulations on the Sterling verdict. More importantly, congratulations on surgery number 112. I've been following your work closely. You're exceeding every expectation. The Foundation is proud to have you. Marcus typed back, The Foundation gave me my second chance. Everything I do is because of that. Wei's response, We gave you an opportunity. You did the rest. Remember that, my friend. Marcus pocketed the phone and walked toward his office. The hallways of Mount Sinai, Harlem were familiar now. Every corner, every shortcut, every supply closet. He'd spent 12 months learning this building the way he'd once learned Columbia Presbyterian. But there was a difference. At Columbia, he'd been chasing prestige, publications, recognition. Here, he was chasing something simpler. Impact. His office was small, just a desk, 2 chairs, and a window that looked out over 125th Street. No mahogany furniture. No awards on the wall. Just a photo of Maya at her high school graduation and a framed copy of his medical license, reinstated 12 months ago. He sat down and finally allowed himself to think about Victoria Sterling. Guilty on all 15 counts. She would spend the next 20 to 30 years in federal prison. Her company was bankrupt. Her reputation destroyed. Her name had become a synonym for corporate greed gone wrong. 3 years ago, Marcus had fantasized about this moment. He'd imagined feeling joy, triumph, the sweet taste of justice served cold. Instead, he felt something unexpected. Pity. Victoria Sterling had everything money could buy and nothing that actually mattered. She'd traded her humanity for profit margins and quarterly reports. She'd climbed so high that she forgot what it felt like to stand on solid ground. And now she would spend the rest of her life in a concrete box, surrounded by the consequences of her choices. That wasn't victory. That was tragedy. Marcus's phone rang. Maya.
Dad, did you hear? 25 to 30 years. She's done.
I heard. You don't sound excited. I'm not.
Dad, this is the woman who destroyed your life, who called you illiterate, who threw wine in your face. How are you not celebrating?
Marcus leaned back in his chair. Maya, let me ask you something. If I spent today celebrating Victoria Sterling's downfall, what would that make me?
Happy? Vindicated? Normal?
It would make me her. It would mean she still controlled my emotions, still had power over my life. He paused. I spent 3 years being consumed by what she did to me. 3 years of anger and bitterness and counting the days. I'm not giving her 3 more seconds. The line was quiet. When did you get so wise? I had a good teacher. 17 years old, sitting at a kitchen table, telling me that justice isn't the same as revenge. Maya laughed softly. I said that? You said a lot of things that night. Most of them I needed to hear. Dad, I'm proud of you. Not because you got your license back, or because you're running clinics, or because the woman who hurt you is going to prison. I'm proud of you because you're happy. Actually happy. For the first time since I can remember. Marcus felt his throat tighten. I am happy, baby girl. I didn't know it was possible anymore, but I am. Good. Now go home and rest. You have that speech tomorrow, and you need to not look exhausted in front of 1,000 people. It's not 1,000 people. Dad, it's the American Medical Association National Conference. It's absolutely 1,000 people. Probably more. Marcus groaned. I should never have agreed to this. Too late. You're the keynote speaker. They're flying in from all over the country to hear the illiterate doctor talk about dignity in medicine. Please don't call me that. The internet calls you that. I'm just keeping you humble. She laughed. Love you, Dad. See you tomorrow. Love you too, Maya. He hung up. The speech. He'd been dreading it for weeks. The AMA had contacted him 6 months ago, asking him to give the keynote address at their annual conference. The theme was Restoring Trust in Healthcare. They wanted him to talk about his experience, the wrongful suspension, the years of struggle, the viral video that had changed everything. He'd tried to say no. Wei Chen had talked him into it. Your story matters, Marcus, not because it's dramatic, but because it's true. Doctors all over the country are burning out. They're losing faith. They need to hear from someone who fell all the way down and found a way back up. So Marcus had agreed, and now he had to figure out what to say to 1,000 strangers about the worst and best years of his life. He opened his laptop. The speech draft stared back at him. 12 pages of carefully crafted words that said all the right things in all the right ways. It was garbage. Every sentence felt hollow, performative, like something designed to generate applause rather than genuine connection. He deleted the entire document, started over, and began to type what he actually wanted to say. The convention center was massive. Marcus stood backstage, listening to the hum of 1,000 voices on the other side of the curtain. Doctors, nurses, administrators, medical students, people from every corner of healthcare gathered to hear him talk. His hands were shaking. Dad, you're going to be great. Maya had flown in from Boston, where she was now a freshman at Harvard. Pre-med, of course, following in her father's footsteps, but forging her own path. What if I forget everything? Then you improvise. You're good at that. Remember the restaurant? I was terrified at the restaurant. And you were magnificent.
Fear doesn't stop you, Dad. It never has.
The stage manager appeared. Dr. Williams, you're on in 2 minutes. Marcus took a deep breath. Any last advice? He asked Maya. Just tell the truth. That's all you've ever done. It's all you need to do now. She hugged him. I love you, Dad. Now go change some minds. He walked toward the stage. The lights were blinding. The applause was deafening. 1,000 faces stared up at him, waiting. Marcus approached the podium. He looked at his notes, the new speech he'd written last night. Then he set them aside. Good morning. My name is Dr. Marcus Williams, and I want to tell you a story about a bottle of wine. Laughter rippled through the audience. 1 year ago, I was working as a waiter in one of Manhattan's most expensive restaurants. I was 52 years old. I had graduated magna cum laude from Harvard Medical School. I had performed over 400 successful heart surgeries. I spoke 5 languages. He paused. And a billionaire CEO threw a $3,000 bottle of wine at my chest and called me illiterate. Silence. Some of you have seen the video. 47 million people have seen the video. What you saw was a man who had reached his breaking point. A man who was tired of being invisible. A man who decided in that moment that he would rather lose everything than lose himself. He gripped the podium. But that's not really why I'm here today. I'm not here to talk about Victoria Sterling. She's in prison now, and honestly, I don't think about her much anymore. I'm here to talk about the 3 years before that video. The years nobody saw. He looked out at the audience. I spent 3 years carrying plates and saying yes ma'am and yes sir to people who couldn't spell cardiovascular. I spent 3 years being told I was nothing by a society that measures worth in dollars. I spent 3 years watching my daughter pretend not to notice that I was dying inside. And every single day of those 3 years, I asked myself the same question. Was it worth it? All the training, all the sacrifice, all the years of medical school and residency and fellowship, was any of it worth it if it could be taken away so easily? He paused. I'm here to tell you, yes, it was worth it. Not because I got my license back. Not because Sterling went to prison. Not because some video went viral and strangers on the internet decided I was a hero. It was worth it because of who I became during those 3 years. He stepped away from the podium. I learned humility. I learned what it feels like to be on the other side of the power dynamic. To be the one serving instead of being served. I learned that the janitor who cleans your operating room and the cafeteria worker who makes your lunch deserve the same respect as the chief of surgery. I learned patience. I learned to wait, to endure, to keep going when every part of me wanted to give up. And I learned something else, something more important than any medical textbook ever taught me. He looked directly into the audience. I learned that dignity cannot be given or taken away by anyone. It can only be surrendered. And as long as you refuse to surrender it, as long as you keep standing up, keep fighting, keep believing that you matter, no one can make you small. Not a billionaire, not a corporation, not a corrupt system designed to crush people like us. The audience was completely still. Victoria Sterling called me illiterate. She meant it as an insult. But you know what? She was right. Just not in the way she intended. I was illiterate. I had forgotten how to read my own worth. I had forgotten how to read the difference between a job and an identity. I had forgotten how to read the love my daughter was trying to show me every single day. That night, in that restaurant, I remembered. He returned to the podium. So here's what I want you to take away from my story. Not revenge, not vindication, not the satisfaction of watching a villain get what she deserved. I want you to remember this. You are not your job. You are not your title. You are not your salary, or your publications, or your parking spot. You are the person who shows up every day and tries to help other human beings suffer a little less. That's what medicine is. That's what it's always been. And no boardroom decision, no corporate restructuring, no malpractice lawsuit can ever take that away from you. He picked up his notes, the notes he hadn't read, and held them up. I wrote a speech, 12 pages of carefully crafted inspiration, designed to make you applaud at the appropriate moments. He tore the notes in half. You don't need inspiration. You need permission. Permission to be tired. Permission to be frustrated. Permission to question whether any of this is worth it. And then you need to keep going anyway. Not because it's easy, not because anyone will thank you, but because somewhere out there, right now, there's a patient who needs you, a family waiting for news, a child who will grow up healthy because you didn't give up. He looked at Maya, standing in the wings. She was crying. My daughter is in the audience today. She's a freshman at Harvard, pre-med. She wants to be a surgeon like her old man. And I used to worry about that. I used to think, don't do it, Maya. Don't let them break you the way they broke me. But I was wrong, because I wasn't broken. I was bent. And bent things can be straightened. Bent things can heal. Bent things can become stronger in the broken places. He smiled. So Maya, if you're listening, and I know you are, I have one thing to say to you. One thing to say to every young person in this room who's wondering if medicine is worth the sacrifice. He leaned into the microphone. Yes. 1,000 times, yes. It's worth every sleepless night, every ungrateful patient, every unfair system. It's worth it because at the end of the day, you get to hold a human heart in your hands and make it beat again. What could possibly be more valuable than that? He stepped back from the podium. My name is Dr. Marcus Williams. I was a surgeon. Then I was a waiter. Now I'm a surgeon again. And I'm grateful for every single step of that journey, even the parts that tried to destroy me. Thank you. The applause started slowly. Then it built. 1,000 people rose to their feet. Marcus looked at the standing ovation and felt peaceful. Not triumphant, not vindicated, just peaceful. He walked off stage. Maya was waiting. She threw her arms around him. Dad, I can't even. Was it okay? It was perfect. She was crying and laughing at the same time. That part about being bent but not broken. Dad, people are going to remember that forever. I just told the truth. That's why they'll remember it. They stood there, father and daughter, as the applause continued. Marcus thought about everything that had led to this moment. The wine on his shirt, the word illiterate ringing in his ears, the decision to remove his apron and speak, the 3 years of darkness before that night, and the year of light that had followed. Dad? Yeah, baby girl? What happens now? Marcus smiled. Now I go back to work. I have a surgery scheduled for Thursday. 43-year-old woman with mitral valve disease. Mother of 4. She's been waiting 8 months for an opening. And then? And then another surgery, and another, and another, until I can't hold a scalpel anymore. He looked at her. That's the job, Maya. You don't do it for the speeches, or the applause, or the viral videos. You do it because somewhere, right now, someone is dying, and you're the only person who can save them. Maya nodded slowly. I want to be like you, Dad. When I grow up, I want to be exactly like you. Marcus felt tears prick his eyes. No, Maya. Don't be like me. Be better. Take everything I taught you and build on it. Find new ways to heal people. Challenge systems I was too scared to challenge. Be braver, kinder, stronger than I ever was. I don't think I can be stronger than you. You already are. He kissed her forehead. You believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. That's the strongest thing anyone has ever done for me. They walked out of the convention center together. The sun was setting over the city. Dad? Yeah? Do you ever think about her? Victoria Sterling? Marcus considered the question. Sometimes. Not with anger anymore. Just wondering. Wondering what? Wondering if she ever had someone who believed in her the way you believed in me. Wondering if maybe a long time ago she was someone different. Someone who could have been saved. That's very generous of you. It's not generosity. It's experience. He looked at his daughter. I know what it feels like to be lost, Maya. To be so deep in darkness that you forget light exists. The only difference between me and Victoria Sterling is that I had you. She had no one. That doesn't excuse what she did. No, but it explains it. And understanding is the first step toward making sure it doesn't happen again. They reached the car. Maya unlocked the doors. Where to, Dr. Williams? Marcus smiled. Home. I have a surgery to prepare for. And then, if I'm not too tired, maybe we could grab dinner? There's a little Italian place near my apartment that makes the best carbonara in Manhattan. Deal. They drove into the fading light. Marcus looked out the window at the city passing by. 3 years ago, he'd been invisible. Now he was something more. Not famous, not powerful, not rich. Just a man who had learned that true literacy isn't about reading words. It's about reading hearts. And that was a language he would spend the rest of his life teaching. The car turned onto 125th Street. Marcus Williams was home. And for the first time in a very long time, that word meant exactly what it was supposed to mean. A place where he belonged. A place where he was loved. A place where he could finally, completely, be himself. Not Dr. Williams the surgeon. Not Marcus Williams the waiter. Just Marcus. A father. A healer. A man who had been bent but never broken. A man who had learned that the most powerful words in any language aren't found in dictionaries. They're found in the simple phrase a daughter texts her father at midnight. I love you, Dad. We're going to be okay. And they were. They finally, truly were.